everyone out of their. She's going to mute everyone. So, but you are welcome to stay afterwards and unmute yourself, and we can talk. So, first of all, welcome. Good evening. Tonight is obviously the night before Chanukah, and being the night before Hanukkah, we will study something related to the holiday of Hanukkah, and in a way that it can help us prepare for this upcoming holiday, for this upcoming Yom Tov. So first of all, let's wish each other Happy Hanukkah, Freilich and Hanukkah, everyone, and we're looking forward for a beautiful holiday celebration. I'm going to make some announcements later at the end of class. Now let's get into the class itself. So everybody knows obviously what Hanukkah is. This is something that we celebrate every year, and it's for 8 nights. And usually we are also surrounded with friends and family. So being the case that Hanukkah is 8 nights, I'm sure that throughout our lives, we heard insights and all kinds of beautiful ideas into this amazing holiday. So I'm not sure if I can add something new into your Hanukkah appreciation, but you never know. Let's first review some of the stuff, and maybe we will come up with some insight that we learned something special for this year. I like to start tonight's class like we do sometimes on holidays with the classic question of Manishtana. You know Manishtana? Manishtana is a good opening for a holiday celebration. We usually do it on Pesach, when the traditional Seder begins with children or the child or even adults are getting up and asking the 4 questions. And the 4 questions are introduced with the man ishtana alayla ze mikol alilot. Why is tonight different than any other night? And then you start mentioning what are the differences, and you specify them, and you'll look to come up with some insight, some idea, understanding what is so unique about Pesach. I personally believe that every Yom Tov requires his own manishtana. In order to appreciate Yom Tov properly, in order to really enjoy the meaning and the message of every Yom Tov, of every holiday, it is good to sit down for a moment and contemplate on this very question: Ma nishtana hayom tov hazeh mikol hayomim tovim? What makes this Yom Tov of Hanukkah different than any other Yom Tov which we celebrate on our Jewish calendar? And now let's mention, at least like we do on Pesach, that we mention 4 differences between what happens on the night of Pesach and what happens every other night of the year. Let's mention 4 differences at least. There are more, but let us at least concentrate on 4. What makes Hanukkah different than any other practice which we do like Hanukkah? And on Hanukkah, we are actually doing it differently. And then we can look in deeper and try to find an understanding and a special appreciation to what Hanukkah is all about. So question number 1. The main mitzvah of Hanukkah is the lighting of the candles. As we all know this story, as the Talmud tells us, that we have a mitzvah to light candles every night to commemorate the special miracle, what happened with the lasting oil in the temple. Make a long story short, the temple is destroyed, the oil is contaminated, the Hashmonaim, the family of the priests, are coming back into the temple, the clearing up the area and the rekindling the menorah, which was a daily practice in the temple. But unfortunately, they were only left with one small cruse of oil, which is enough for a single night. It would take him at least a week to process new oil in order to light the menorah with its designated kosher oil, so to speak, the pure oil. So what happens? They fill up the candelabra, which was a 8 part candelabra of 8 candles, and they kindle it. I'm sorry, and then what happens is it continues lighting miraculously, night after night after night, and it ends up lighting for 8 nights. And this is what our sages instituted and established that what's going to happen on the following years, that the night the story of Hanukkah took place, the week and the 8 days when the miracle took place in the temple, we are going to commemorate the anniversary of that miracle by lighting candles each and every night of Hanukkah. This is the mitzvah of the lighting of the candles. Now, we have other times that we light candles. We have, for example, a mitzvah to light candles every Friday evening before the Shabbat comes in, before sunset, and those candles are to be placed in the house. And these candles serve a purpose. What is the purpose of those candles? Is to add to the joy of Shabbat. As the Talmud tells us, and it's also recorded by Rambam in Maimonides, that the candles are to make sure that the house is peaceful, no one trips over any furniture, there is no darkness in the house, there is light, a way that we can enjoy the meal by seeing what we eat. Candles add to the atmosphere of Shabbat. Even if you have the light shining, you still, at a very nice banquet, you put candles too, and it creates an atmosphere for the meal called Onek Shabbat, to indulge ourselves and to create a pleasant atmosphere during the Shabbat meal. So clearly the candles are to benefit from them. The candles are there to enjoy them. The candles are there to provide us with light. This is the purpose of Shabbat candles. Or we light a candle every Saturday night. It's called the Havdalah candle. That's a halachic institution to distinguish between the day that we weren't allowed to light fire, like the Torah tells us, do not kindle a fire on Shabbos, and starting the new week on Saturday night with the ability to now be active even in mundane kind of activities. So how do we show it? By lighting a candle. That's called the Havdalah candle. Havdalah means separation, the distinction between the holy and the mundane, and we light a candle. And the candle is actually used. If you ever noticed before, when we make the blessing on the candle, on Saturday night, we say, Baruch Atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, borei meorei ha'esh, who created the lights of fire. And what do? You saw people are going with their hands, with their fingers, and they waving in front of the candle. This is not just a wave. The idea is to really, according to Jewish law, is to take a pick on your fingers, and to look at them in front of the light of the Havdalah candle, and to see in front of that light the difference between your nail and your skin. This is just a concept of showing some type of distinction. And that's why you go like this. You go like this in front of the candle, and you look at the candle, you look at your fingers, and you say, aha, you see, I can benefit from that light. Now I have some usage from lighting a fire. Here is my nail, here is my skin. I can see clearly the distinction in front of the light of the candle. Why the nail? Why the fingers? This is a whole different discussion. But clearly, for the purpose of our discussion tonight, clearly the candles are to serve a purpose. The purpose is to serve, to share light, to create an atmosphere, to benefit from. What happens to the Hanukkah candles? What is their purpose? So if you'll follow the concept of lighting candles on Hanukkah in Halakha and Jewish law, it is clearly that you cannot benefit from it. You're actually not allowed to enjoy the light of the candle. That's one of the reasons that we have a special candle called the shamash, which is like the leading candle. This is not only in order to light the candles with, that serves a purpose on its own. It's a reminder candle to tell you if you want to read a book next to the candles, and it's only next to the shamash candle. But next to the actual Hanukkah candles, you're not allowed to do it because the Hanukkah candles are not there to serve any purpose. The purpose is for you to look on them, but not to benefit from. Matter of fact, what happens if the light is everywhere and you have enough candles in the house, right? You light a candle in the kitchen because you need light in the kitchen. You light a candle in the living room because you need light in the living room. Are you still going to light a special candle for Hanukkah? Yes. Are you going to benefit from that candle? Absolutely not. So why are you lighting it? Because the sages told us that we should light a candle. Tonight is a mitzvah to light a candle. But you see clearly that the lighting of the candle of Hanukkah has nothing to do with any enjoyment. Matter of fact, if you have 2 people in your house, 3 people in your house, 10 people in your house, usually each one of them is going to light their own candle. They're going to have their own menorah. So it's clearly not serving a specific purpose of enjoyment or benefiting from the candle. Rather, it is to just have a candle for the sake of having a lit candle. So that's question number 1. Man ishtana. What is the difference? The lighting of the candles on Hanukkah than the lighting of the candles throughout the year. Why throughout the year the candles are being lit? In order to serve a purpose, in order to benefit from them. And what is it when it comes to Hanukkah? That the candles are being lit just to have a candle. No purpose, no enjoyment, no usage. Question is clear? Yes. Okay, let's go to question number 2. Question number 2. Every holiday, usually, what is the main part of a holiday that we celebrate is, and how we celebrate the holiday, is by a physical meal with a beautiful celebration. When it comes Pesach, for example, what do we do on Pesach? We have a Seder. What do we do by the Seder? We tell the story. But the main part is to tell the story while experiencing the holiday by eating food and having a meal and a beautiful meal and matzah and maror and gefilte fish and ich weiß, whatever. I don't want to make you hungry, but everybody knows and remembers the special delicacies that we all prepare for Pesach. So Passover is always celebrated with a very special, indulging physical meal. And the same thing happens on Purim. What happens on Purim? The main mitzvah of Purim is to share the story. That's what the reading of the Megillah is. And right after we share the story, what else do we have to do? To have a party. Like it says in the Megillah, Mishteh Vesimcha. What does mishteh mean? A festive, a feast, a meal, a beautiful meal. And there should be a feast which is filled with joy. You drink wine. You drink more than usual. You get excited. That's what Purim is. What happens on Chanukah? On Chanukah, if you read the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law on Chanukah, you're not going to find anything about needing to have a meal. There is no obligation, there is no requirement to have a meal. The fact that you eat what you call it sufganiyot, donuts, which sometimes a single sufganiyah has more calories than a full Seder night meal, true, but usually the sufganiyah is just a custom to celebrate the oil and whatever other also it entails. But there is no obligation, there is no mitzvah to sit down and to have a meal on Chanukah. There is a mitzvah to have a meal on Purim. There's a mitzvah to have a meal on Pesach. There's a mitzvah to have a meal on Sukkot, reminding ourselves the miracle of surviving the desert for 40 years. We have to build a special hut, but at the same time, it's not just to build and then put it as a display and to watch it and to say, here, this is what it looked like when our parents were in the desert, but we have to walk into the sukkah and have a meal. So again, question number 2 is, Ma nishtana, what makes Chanukah different than any other holiday, than by every other holiday? When we survived the enemies who wanted to attack us, and we celebrate our survival, the outcome of a war, we celebrate it in a way that our physical body should also enjoy it. And it comes to Chanukah, what do we say? No reason for a meal. You want to celebrate? Light a candle. Light a candle. That's it. That's the Yom Tov. Yes, in our prayers on Chanukah, we add a special prayer called Hallel. Hallel means praise. We get involved in a special praise to God. It's again a spiritual expression, if you want to call it, on what happened on this holiday. But it's not much or not at all about our physical survival from the Greeks, just like we celebrate our survival from the Persians, from Haman, from Achashverosh, or from the Egyptians and Pharaoh. Manishtana, what makes Chanukah different? Good question. Clear? Good. Question number 3. I'm just going to have a sip of my tea, and you can do the same with you. L'chaim, l'chaim. Question number 3. Listen to that scenario. We have on Chanukah a very, very interesting halacha, a concept in Jewish law, which really doesn't exist in any other holiday. And it works as follows. Jewish law says, how many candles does one have to light on Chanukah? How many candles? So there is a discussion in the Talmud. You can look it up. It is Tractate Shabbat. The second chapter in Tractate Shabbat of Talmud talks about the holiday of Chanukah and many of the laws related to this Chanukah celebration, the candles, and so on. So the Gemara says as follows, Mitzvat Ner Chanukah. What is the main basic mitzvah of the mitzvah of lighting a Chanukah candle? Ner ish ubeito. You light for 8 nights one single candle for you and your entire family. Every household lights one single candle. So tomorrow night you light one candle, Friday before Shabbat a second candle, Saturday night again one candle, Sunday night one candle each night. How many members are in your house? You can have one member, you can have 20 members, you can have 15 members. Regardless how many members are in your household, one single candle for each one of the entire house. That's it. That's the mitzvah. If you want to check your list, did I do Hanukkah? You just have to get 8 candles and you did your mitzvah right. The Talmud continues, hold on. This is the basic. What is Hamehadrin? How those who want to enhance the mitzvah or want to beautify the mitzvah, what do? Says the Gemara, they are the ones who light a candle for each member of that household. Still, one single candle, but that single candle is for each person in the house. So if you have one person in the house, one candle every night. If you have 2 people in the house, 2 candles every night. If you have 10 people in the house, 10 candles, a candle for each person, but one every night of the 8 days. This is called what? In Talmudic language, they refer to that level mehadrin. In Hebrew, the word hidur means beautifying. Oh, you want to enhance the mitzvah? You want to do something extra? There you go. Don't just light to one for the entire household. Do for each member a candle. Says the Talmud. Wait, there's yet another level. And it's called as follows. Ve'amehadrin min hamehadrin. Which means if you want to be not just beautifying the mitzvah, you want to do it on a very extra level of enhancement. You want to go, as they say, the full car. You want to go all the way in the mitzvah to show that you really, really care and you want to enjoy the celebration of Hanukkah. What do you do then? Says the Gemara. Then you light the first night 1 candle, and the second night you light 2. And the third night, you're going to light 3. All the way to the 8th night, you're going to end up lighting 8 candles in one single night on the 8th night. You show every night how the miracle grew. Last night there was only 1. Now take a look. It's already lighting 2 nights. Let's celebrate with 2 candles. Ooh, it's still lighting for 3 nights. Let's put on 3 candles. Now, even that level, the highest level called Mehadrin, Mina Mehadrin, most commentators learn that this is also only by one person of the entire household. Comes the Rambam, Maimonides, and he says, no, Me'adrin, Mena Me'adrin, the third level, to do it right, each member of the house is going to light an additional candle every night. Okay? So, and this is a discussion. This is a Talmudic debate with insight, with reasonings, why this and why that. Now, take a look for a moment. Where do we find in any other mitzvah such a concept that you can do it a quarter of the way, you can do it halfway, or you can do it the full way? I never saw such a mitzvah. Imagine, let's take an example. A guy walks into synagogue tomorrow morning, which is a weekday, that we put on tefillin. And you know that tefillin goes, one pair goes on the hand and one pair goes on the head. And a guy comes into shul and he puts on tefillin just on his hand. I will say, David, everything okay? You probably missing the head tefillin. You forgot it at home. So David tells me, no, today I'm only putting one. Tomorrow I'm going to put both. Would it be such a thing? No. What would you tell him? Sorry. If you want to do tefillin right, tefillin works that you put in the hand tefillin and the head tefillin. Both elements together complete the mitzvah of tefillin. There's no halfway, 3/4 of the way, a full way. Even further, imagine Sukkot. We have 4 species. This guy walks into shul. Hello, what's your name? Arnold. I see you have a beautiful lulav. Where's the Adassim? Where are the mortals? Where's the willows? Where's the etrog? He said, Rabbi, today is lulav. Tomorrow, I'm going to add an etrog to it. 3 days from now, I want to keep on growing with my mitzvah. What would you tell him? I'm sorry, it doesn't work like this. To make the mitzvah right, there are 4 species, and all 4 come together. We don't break it up. What is it when it comes to Chanukah? We tell the person, tonight light to 1 candle, tomorrow light a 2nd candle, and then light a 3rd candle. Why are you breaking up the holiday? What was the miracle? The miracle was that the oil was lasting for 8 nights. True? That was the miracle. And that's why we are celebrating 8 days of Hanukkah. So what would be wrong to come in the first night of Hanukkah, a full menorah of 8 candles. Tomorrow night, another full menorah of 8 candles. And every night of Hanukkah, light the full menorah, representing the full miracle. Tonight 1, tomorrow 2, the next day 3. We don't find it in any other mitzvah. This is question number 3. Finally, question number 4, and I think we're going to stop with the questions here, because we have to get into some insight, is also on this very same subject, the idea of keep on making the mitzvah into basic, more than basic. You know, it's like you're buying like a cell phone plan. You're buying a telephone. You can buy this level of iPhone. There's a higher level of iPhone. This has that feature, that feature. Come on. We don't do mitzvahs like this. Yes, every mitzvah, everybody understands you can do the same mitzvah on a basic level. You can buy tefillin for $200, but it's not going to be the nicest tefillin. And you can buy tefillin for $500, and you can even buy tefillin for $1,000. It depends how skilled the scribe is. Some scribes are a little messy. This guy gives more attention to it. He's skilled. He knows better how. There is the investment in the object. Some invest more, some invest less. You can have a nicer written Torah, you can have a less nice written Torah. It's going to be kosher, but there is minimal kosher and then there is maximum kosher. Just like in everything else in life, you can buy the basic, you can buy it cheap, or you can buy something which is more better quality and it will cost you a few extra dollars. Depends what you like. Depends how much are you interested in investing. But this has nothing to do with the actual core mitzvah. The mitzvah is always the same. It's only how much you really want to invest in it. Chanukah is not that the mitzvah is the same. There is 3 levels of doing the mitzvah. But the irony is that if you're going to visit a person on Hanukkah, every single house that you're going to visit on Hanukkah, I bet you will see that everybody is suddenly super religious. Why? Because you're not going to find people lighting 1 candle. every night. And you're not going to even find people who light to one candle for each member of the household every night. A very so-called simple, minimal observing home is going to have, if they observe Hanukkah, what are they going to have? They're going to have a menorah, and the first night they're going to light one candle, and the second night they're going to light two candles, and the third night they're going to light three candles. Each one is going to become mehadrin mina mehadrin. Everybody is suddenly, super religious. Everybody is so involved in the mitzvah. They don't want to do the basic. They don't want to do the intermediate part. They want to do the full packet. Really? Are you ready to also buy the most expensive tefillin? Maybe yes, no, maybe not. Very rare that someone asked me, Rabbi, buy me the most expensive tefillin. Average. Let me start somewhere, they always say. It's okay if I can get it for a cheaper price. Let's see what Amazon has to offer when it comes to tefillin. Everyone buys the nicest matzah, the nicest etrog. Are you really looking around every market to look how to make sure that the etrog that I'm going to use on Sukkot is really going to be the nicest one? There is a basic, there is the Lex, deluxe, whatever you call it. There's all kinds of levels. Every store and every etrog salesman initially introduces 3 or 4 or 5 levels of the 4 species, and they know that from the nicest they should only probably bring in 4 or 5 because the people are not going to buy it. Most people are going to go with the $40 one, with the $50 one, which is okay, whatever. But Hanukkah, I'm not lighting one candle. I'm going to light one candle the first night. And I'm going to light a second candle the second night. And you ask him, why are you doing it? What do you mean? I am considering myself a super Jew when it comes to Hanukkah. What is suddenly everybody becoming super? Since I'm so super in everything. And don't tell me it's because it's cheap in price. It's the idea. It's the mental commitment. Everyone, Sephardic, Ashkenazic, Lithuanian, American, Russian, ich weiß was, every single Yid keeps the same level of Hanukkah observance. Manishtana, what makes Hanukkah different? This is the 4 questions. Okay, my friends, we're ready for some for dinner. Usually in Pesach, we finish the 4 questions and we rush to dinner. Where are we rushing tonight? I don't know. But anyway, let me just summarize the 4 questions again. The question is, Ma nishtana achag hazeh mikol achagim? What is different? The holiday of Hanukkah from all holidays of the year. Question number 1. How comes that on Hanukkah we light light and their purpose is not to serve a purpose? Their purpose is just to be there. Every other light we light is usually to serve a purpose, to benefit from. Question number 2. On Hanukkah, we are not required, not told to have any type of feast or meal. Every other holiday is only about eating, only about drinking. Right? They wanted to kill us. We won. Let's eat. That's how the expression goes. Question number 3. How comes it on Hanukkah, even we have these 3 basics, the 3 levels? No other mitzvah has levels. Every mitzvah has the way to do it. You don't start up with one and then you go with another one. Why is it that we don't light all 8 candles? I'm sorry, that was the question. Why don't we light all 8 candles every single night? Why are we breaking it up into 8 nights? Question number 4, as we just learned, that really there are all different levels, there are multi-levels of to observe the mitzvah. Why is it that on Hanukkah suddenly everybody becomes and follows the super level to do it by adding and increasing a candle every night, and even like the Rambam says, a candle for each member of the house. 2 menorahs, 3 menorahs, 4 menorahs, depending on your family members. That's the question. And now I'm going to go to explanation, which hopefully will give us insight into Chanukah. First of all, a little history. I just said the last bracha after drinking. So first of all, a little history, a historical factor. Who were those Greeks who were fighting? This is a couple hundred years after the building of the second temple. So the first temple was already destroyed by the Babylonians. A second temple was built. Jews are pretty much settled in Israel. Some of them are still left in Babylonia. But the second temple is standing. No one is looking to destroy the second temple. It's going to be standing for 420 years. So we have a temple, and the temple is doing a service. The order of Jewish life is flourishing. And here comes a government of Assyrian Greeks with an agenda. And what do they want? Do they want to kill us? No. Do they want to destroy the temple? No. Do they want to destroy Jerusalem? No. Matter of fact, they even named Jerusalem Antiochia, which was after the Antiochus, the emperor of Greece at that time. If you read the history of Chanukah, and by the way, one place which the history is recorded is by Maimonides. Maimonides, in his section of law called the Laws of Chanukah, and you can find it even online. I know Chabad.org has all the sections of Rambam in English and in many other languages. The Rambam begins the Laws of Chanukah by telling us what happened during the Second Temple era with the story of Chanukah. And he says clearly, the idea of Chanukah, which led to the Chanukah holiday and the victory of the Hashmonaim, had nothing to do originally with any war trying to protect our physical being. The Hashmonaim were not like Haman in the story of Purim, and not like Paro in the story of Passover. The Hashmonaim had a whole different agenda. Their agenda was how to remove the concept of Jewish spirituality. They did not care for the Jewish physical existence. What concerned them and what they decided to fight for or against was that commitment, devotion that Judaism has towards spirituality, which means you have a 7-day week, and the 7th day is not just a regular day of rest, which they would appreciate too. Everybody likes a Sunday off. But the 7th day is becoming a holy day, Shabbat Kodesh. That holiness of Shabbat, the sanctity of Shabbat, which is all about God created the world on 6 days, He rested on the 7th, and He wants us to join in His rest, connect to Him, recognizing Him as the Creator, and therefore abstaining from our physical work, able to look into the eyes of our offices and businesses and say, I'm sorry, I don't want to deal with you today. To take our iPhones that we are so depending on them and to shut it down and to say, I'm sorry, for the next 24 hours, you're not going to be able to see me, you're not going to be able to see you. Because it's a holy day. It's not just a day of rest. That means spirituality. That means taking a simple day of the week, which has 24 hours, like every other day, and calling it holy. Holy. I'm going to think about greater things. I'm going to be involved in spiritual reflection. And I'm not going to concentrate and spend the time with my regular physical needs. It's not a day that I do my errands, a day that I fix my garage or I mow my yard because it's a day off. Matter of fact, all those items are going to become what Allah calls muktzah. Muktzah means items that I'm abstaining from. I'm not going to hold my pen, not I'm going to write. I'm for sure not writing, but let me just hold it. No, you're not even going to touch it because it's holy. That was the war of Greek at that time. You want to study Torah? Pajalista. Go for it. Learn. Torah is very intellectual. Mind stimulating. It's good. Use it. Matter of fact, the first translation of the Torah was in the Assyrian Greek. They were the ones who translated before anybody else, before Art Scroll came to the world. They did it because they were in a strong appreciation to the wisdom of the Torah, to the knowledge, to the concepts, to the philosophy. But what's this meshugas? What's this craziness of treating the Torah with holiness? It is holy, it's unchangeable, it's unbreakable, it's divine. Especially if you look in the Torah, there are certain areas that really drove them crazy. Is the areas which you actually practice spirituality. If you ask a Jew, is there such a concept called kosher meat? What's the answer going to be? For sure, kosher meat. Everybody knows kosher meat. That's usually they call it the expensive meat in the market. Yes, I know. It's kosher. Is there something called kosher dairy? Can you eat dairy? What is a Jew going to say? Sure, we eat dairy. We actually have a holiday called Dairy Day. We eat a lot of dairy on Shavuot. We are very much into dairy. Okay, so you can eat meat. Your religion allows you meat. Yes. And your religion allows you dairy. Yes. Now, what happens when they get mixed together, cooked together? What happens? All of a sudden, treif, I'm not touching it. Why? Why? Why can't we have a kosher cheeseburger? A kosher McDonald's. You have kosher meat and kosher cheese and put them in a sandwich and enjoy a kosher cheeseburger. Why can't we take a nice piece of steak and dip it into some sour cream, some butter? What's wrong? I heard from people who never kept kosher before that it's actually tasty. I don't know. I can't tell you. At my age, till 9, never tried it, but they say that sour cream, Arnold, is it true? I'm joking. That sour cream, that sour cream with meat is actually very good. Don't try it. Anyway, what's the idea? So they ask you, what does it mean? Why is it not good? Why can't you have it? What's the answer going to be? Because God said so. And just because that, yes, just because of that. And this is what stood in the front line of what the idea of Greek was considering and concerned about in fighting the Jews of Israel. The whole story of Chanukah was not about destroying the temple, as we see even in the story. It doesn't say anywhere that they spilled the oil. There was plenty of oil in the temple. What does it say? Tim'u kol hashmanim, which means they defolded, they impurified all oils. How does you take oil and you make it impure? You go over to it, you touch it, and if you are in a state of impurity, then the oil becomes impure. That's what the Torah teaches us. And it doesn't have to be a Gentile, it can even be a Jew. I was yesterday in the cemetery. I had a funeral, okay? So I go to the cemetery. If I come back from the funeral and I go into the temple and I touch it in my hands, the oil in the temple, ocus pocus, that oil becomes contaminated. I can't use it anymore for the temple in the days when there was a temple. But nothing happened. Rabbi, you didn't know nothing. Your hands are clean. Today, you know what they do in the cemetery? Yesterday, we had a funeral. So, you know what they do? They put a station next to the grave. They put a station. The Chevra Kadisha brings stations of sanctified, what do you call it? Those soaps, sanctifying soap. And every person, before they use the shovel to fill in the ground, the grave with the earth, has to go over and first clean his hands. So the next person who touches the shovel after you is not affected, God forbid. That's how serious it is. So I did it. I did it before the shovel and after the shovel, but still, I had to still wash my hands after that, even though they were already clean. Because this laws of purity, which has nothing to do with soap, and has nothing to do with detergent, has nothing to do with anything else. This is what the Torah is considering a source of purification, like a water pool, like a mikveh, made with special conditions, and then you can walk into the temple. Otherwise, it's not good. And that was clearly the issue, what we are celebrating on Chanukah, the Hashmonaim, the group of the priests were fighting that very same issue to ensure that what we are preserving is the spirituality of Judaism. So what happens is clearly, if you want to put it in one word, Purim, Haman, Hitler, Pharaoh were fighting the Jews. The Greeks did not fight the Jews. They were fighting Judaism. And that's the difference. Judaism versus the Jew. This is the core difference between what every other holiday is and what Chanukah is. Chanukah is really a holiday which celebrates Jewish spirituality, the survival of Judaism, not the survival of Jews. Clear. And now, obviously, when you fight for something, there is side effects. You got to keep up a Uzi sometimes. You got to get into war. There were the kids of Matityahu, which they had to fight, and there was a war, and they had to run in the hills and in the mountains and in Modi'in. And the Rambam does elaborate on it. And the Rambam says, yes, ultimately you should also be joyful on Chanukah because there was a survival of the war. We made it through. And we actually say it in the davening, in our prayers, when it comes Chanukah, from tomorrow night, 8 days, the 3 prayers a day, which 8 times 3, I believe is 24, still right? So 24 times a day, plus every time you have a meal, you're going to have a special addition in the Amida prayer and in your benching, which starts with the words Ve'al Anisim. You're thanking God for the miracles. That's after Modim. And what do we say? We say the story in short. In the days of Matityahu, the son of Yochanan, the high priest, and the Greeks, the aliens government rose up against you people, Israel, to make them forget your Torah and to violate the decrees of your will. But you, God, in your abounding mercy, stood by them at the time of their distress, and you fought their battles, defended their rights, and onward and onwards. So we are going to mention that there was a battle and there was rights, but what is the main cause? What led to this whole story? What led to the whole story is what? a fight to make us forget that the Torah is your Torah, is God's Torah. Yes, you can study Torah, but don't study it because it's God's. Study it because it's knowledgeable and it's philosophical and it's nice and it's ethical and it's exciting and it's, and somehow all the secrets of success is if you know how to make medicine and to get the next vaccine, somehow the Jews figured it out. It's in the Torah, whatever. The conspiracy always works, right? Oi, my friend, this is not Chanukah. Chanukah is not about fighting the Jews. Chanukah is about fighting Judaism. And that's how we celebrate Chanukah, which now we're going to answer each one of the 4 questions. Question number 1 was, what is it that we're lighting light? Light is the most spiritual, physical object which exists in our world. Think about it. Nothing is as spiritual as light. The Rebbe once gave a very good example how light represents spirituality. First of all, in Kabbalah, every time they speak about God's revelations, they call it or, the infinite light, the light. Light is the classic definition, the closest that we can get to spirituality. But the Rebbe once said something very beautiful. The Rebbe said, another explanation, the connection of light with spirit, the Rebbe said as follows. Usually, everything you have, if you give away something, you end up missing from what you gave. If I have $100 in my pocket and I gave 50 to somebody else, now I'm left with 50, right? If I have bread and I gave it to somebody else, I'm left with a half of the bread I had. The one thing that you give away, and not only you're not missing anything, but it actually doubles and grows and triples, is light. You light a fire, you take a match, and you kindle it from the pre-existing fire. Is that original fire missing something now by what happened? No. Not only is it not missing, a whole new set of fires keeps on growing and expanding, and it can go into infinite levels from the one match. This is called spirituality. Spirituality is something that you give and you don't lose. It's eternal. Comes on Chanukah, our sages tell us, how we're going to celebrate it? We're going to light candles because this is the message that we're going to relate to when we light the Chanukah menorah, is to remember that we are a people of spirit. We are not just Jews. We are celebrating Judaism. We are celebrating the spirit of the day, the spirit of our lives. We are celebrating our neshama. And a neshama is referred to as light. When a person passes away, we light a candle for that person. We light a candle. As King Solomon says, Neir Hashem Nishmas Adam. The candle of God is the soul of man. And in Tanya, chapter 19, the Alter Rebbe talks about the relationship between a candle and a neshama. Even the physical playing out of the candle, the way the flame keeps on escaping the wick, says the Alter Rebbe, is the story of the soul trying to reach its source and its root, and it's trying to detach himself from the body, and the body is holding him back. And this is actually what happens when you watch the flames of a typical candle. This is not candles to illuminate our homes. This is not like Shabbat candles, which are there to make our meal indulging or to make sure that we don't stumble and we don't trip. The Chanukah candle is just to be able to look and something physical and to say, this is what I am relating to. This is what I'm celebrating. I want to know, and I want to celebrate today on Chanukah the story of Jewish survival, the survival of the spirit, of the neshama, of the freedom of religion, which is the Yom Tov of Chanukah. And that answers question number 2. How come we don't have a great mitzvah to have a feast on Chanukah? How come we don't have a meal on Chanukah? You can have a meal and it's beautiful because after all, You know, how else would you relate to the story of the miracle of not having something good to eat? But the idea is not like Purim. Purim, Haman wanted to kill you, your body. He wanted to put you in the gas chamber in Auschwitz. At that time, it was in Shushan. And God miraculously saved us. Let's make sure the body enjoys it. Give him a good piece of meat. Give him a good l'chaim. Let him have some fun. Realize that life is okay and we survived by the hands of God. Chanukah is not about your body. Sorry. Chanukah is not about our physical survival. Yes, it is. In order to celebrate the spirit, you have to have a healthy body, right? You have to be able to do it. But it's not, the main idea is not about that. And that's why Chanukah is mainly celebrated with candles and not with a meal. And that answers question number 3. Question was, what is it? Why aren't we lighting all 8 candles at once? And the answer is, again, because when it comes to spirit, it's all about growing. It's all about showing that we are something that we can grow and grow upon grow. This is not something that it's one level. If today I was in this level, tomorrow I'm going to continue to a higher level. The moment you stop, that means you're giving into your body. You're not giving into the neshama. The body wants to stop, but the neshama wants to grow. And this is the Yom Tov of the neshama. This is the Yom Tov of the holiday of the soul. So we're going to celebrate it like the rule is in Jewish law, Ma'alin Bakodesh. In everything which is holy, the way you celebrate holiness is by keeping growing and enhancing. We're not going to be one level. And ultimately, like the question 4 was, as we explained, that every Jew is suddenly becoming a super Jew. No one is sticking to the basic. Everybody is involved to the highest level of lighting a menorah, which is going to be increasing in light every single night. Because we all know and we all understand and we all believe that what is really ultimately the goal and the purpose of our life is to be involved in the light of our souls, in the light of our neshamas. And therefore, we're not going to stick to the minimal. We are going to, every single person, regardless of your year or day-to-day level of observance or relationship with God, on Hanukkah, everybody is super Jew. Everybody knows this is ultimately where I belong. And I sometimes, give in to my limitations. Okay, it's that too bad. That's what happens. But this is the Yom Tov starting tomorrow night, an amazing holiday which teaches us and gives us the time to light a candle and to sit down next to the candles. And as the Rebbe always used to say, you sit down by the candles and you're listening to the story. The candles are telling you a story. You have to sit there at least a half hour. What do you do a half hour next to the candle? Put away your phone, or you can put on your phone, listen to some good, nice Jewish music, background music, but listen to the stories of the flames. The flames are telling you the story of Hanukkah, the story of spiritual survival, of spiritual accomplishment, and the story of our spirit in a time when we are so threatened physically. It's so important to keep normal and to keep healthy is to know that Baruch Hashem, thank God, we have such a strong spirit which those physical limitations cannot really challenge and cannot really threaten. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, he was taken to jail in 1927 by the communists. And he was walking into the train. They sent him to exile. He was living at that time in St. Petersburg, and they were sending him to exile to a forsaken place called Kostroma. And he was there at the train station, and there were many Hasidim and followers who came to say goodbye. Who knows when they're going to see him next. Before he walked up the train, he gave a big announcement. And his announcement was as follows. It's printed. Actually, my wife's grandfather was there at the station when he left, Rabbi Levitin Zayda. He said, listen, Jews, we are going to exile, but only our bodies are going to exile. Our souls are never in exile, and no one has any control of our souls. Goodbye. I'm ready to go. And that kept them. That kept him, that kept and uplifted the spirit of all the Hasidim who were there now saying goodbye to him. So, my friends, the time is up. I want to just make a few announcements. So, as we're getting into the holiday. So, first of all, wishing you each and every one a wonderful, amazing, happy Chanukah. Wherever you are, you light your candles. If anybody needs candles or a menorah, contact Rabbi Farkash. He can send me a WhatsApp, and by tomorrow, before Hanukkah, he will make sure that you have candles, so you can come pick it up in front of my house. There's a box. You can pick up candles, but at the same time, I also would like to make each and every one of you an ambassador of light. Think about somebody in your community, in your neighborhood, a Yid, who might benefit from having candles brought by the neighbor, and they would light candles. This is going to enhance the holiday. And I'm going to bring you those candles. Just give it to your neighbor in your neighborhood, in your apartment, next to your house. And again, we're going to add, we need a lot of light. We always need light. This year, we need light more than ever. So please, consider it too. And as far as the Hanukkah public celebrations, so obviously we can't do what we are always doing. The malls are mainly not allowing big gatherings, but we do have permission by the governor to make a gathering outside of our shul in the parking lot. Hopefully that we can come join us tomorrow at 6 o'clock. We're going to light the menorah, a big menorah that we always take to the mall or to Redmond Town Center. We're going to light it outside in the parking lot, so you can come join and keep your distance and have some music and see some people. And we're going to give out some food and some l'chaim. So everybody, in special bags were ordered for the kids to come and celebrate Hanukkah together tomorrow at 6 o'clock. In addition, being on Zoom, so we have a very special program prepared for Saturday night. I think it's also 6 o'clock. What does the email say? 6 o'clock? I believe so. Take a look at the email, that we would like to light the candles together on Zoom. And don't cover yourself like now that half of you are like putting your masks up. Come on, this is not a time for masks. This is not Purim. Purim, you put on a mask. Hanukkah, there's no idea, there's no concept of masks. Uncover yourself and keep your menorah. Put your camera next to your menorah so we can all see each other lighting it. And we're going to have a special program of a number of speakers and music that we're going to celebrate together Saturday night, this coming Saturday night, here on Zoom. I'm going to send you the address. Please invite friends to come join. It's a professional program, specially prepared. You're not going to have to hear Rabbi Farkash's speeches or lectures. This is going to be professionally prepared for all families to enjoy. Hopefully, I'm sure they will, on Saturday night at 6 o'clock. Otherwise, wishing you again a happy Hanukkah. And tomorrow is it starting. We will continue with great joy. Thank you. Now you can unmute yourself. If anybody wants to say something, please do.
Good evening, everybody.